I'd say lyrically, I get a ton of inspiration from film, but also like poetry and classic literature, especially like Greek mythology. Um, as far as film, though, I definitely, that's a huge inspiration for a lot of imagery. I love a good classic film, a good Hitchcock. I love David Lynch, especially like that inspires a lot of surrealism in my songwriting, I think.
Rob Ruckus, Nick Collins,
Kate Clover,
Keith Semple,
Isaiah Mitchell,
Billy Harvey,
Tim Howard. Check it out, Almost Famous Magazine.
Hey there, welcome back to The Hang right here on Almost Famous Magazine. I'm your host, Scott Saldinger. Thank you for hanging with us and getting to know musicians from all over the world, getting to know their story just beyond the music itself. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and share this. And if you've been with us before, have you shared it with a friend? What are you waiting for? You're coming back. Obviously, we're doing something right. Also, if you prefer to take your podcast on the go with you, you can now get The Hang on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Take us along for the ride. Today, we're joined by Nashville-based singer-songwriter Arily Michele. She's a classically trained vocalist and vintage synth enthusiast. I think we're going to go down a rabbit hole there, but we're not going to say vintage synth enthusiast multiple times. Synth-enthusiast. Ooh, I like that. Whose ethereal blend of neo-psychedelic pop and dreamy soundscapes have been turning heads with releases like Highway Hypnosis and her recent single, Digitalis. Born out of the Rocky Mountains and shaped by introspective indie pop, Arily's music fuses poetic storytelling, great lyrics, lush textures, feel like drifting through sunlight and shadow. We're going to dive into her creative process, her inspirations behind her hypnotic sound, and what's next in 2026 for this boundary-pushing artist. Plus, we're going to do something new and exciting. Get your questions and comments ready. Anyone who comments on this episode in the first 2 weeks, one of you is going to have the chance to have something show up in the mail direct from Arily. You're going to get your own merch pack. So please comment below. Arily, welcome to The Hang.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I love your backdrop, by the way.
Yeah, my little pink holographic tinsel. It's like I got it for like a Valentine's Day thing that I put together, but I loved it so much I just decided to keep it up as an evergreen thing. It sparks so much joy.
I'm like getting a vibe off of it. I am. It's really cool. I noticed that. I'm like, wait a minute, I want to say that something about that. So welcome. Here's what we do. We want to get to know you. So I'm always interested in like your relationship with the music and how it began, right? Did you find music or did music find you? And what's that relationship been like that's gotten you to where you are today?
Oh, I'd have to say we found each other. Like I've been singing for as long as I've been talking. I've been writing since I was 8. I've been producing since I was 14. Been playing keys since I was about 5. So it's been a permanent part of my life. And yeah.
Did it just come to you? I mean, did you gravitate toward it? What was that first spark or that first moment that suddenly it took over your soul?
I remember I had a Kylie Minogue song stuck in my head when I was in kindergarten. And I kept repeating that melody in my head. I got home from school that day. My mother had this like cheap Casio keyboard, and I remembered that melody and I taught myself to play it on that little keyboard. And I think that was like the moment where everything began. Even though I had been like singing since I think that was when I started to develop a relationship with music and understanding the relationship between different tones and intervals and between notes and things like that, and melodies, especially pop melodies, because pop melodies are very notoriously catchy and like hypnotic and memorable. So I would say that was my like villain origin story.
So you owe all of this to Kylie Minogue. Which song was it?
I think it was called I Can't Get You Out of My Head.
And look, what did she do? She got stuck in your head.
She did. Yeah, I'm just now noticing the irony in that. That's pretty brilliant. So yeah, thank you, Kylie Minogue.
It's her master plan. That's how she's taking over the world, you know. she's that's one child at a time. It's kind of like a Stranger Things thing.
Yes.
So she's going out. You are her Stranger Things child. She went after your mind. There we go.
I'm honored.
I'm sure God knows I'm either going to get a lawsuit over that or some lawyer is going to come after us, but I don't care.
I'll defend you in court.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know you also had a law degree. Or do you just play one on TV? So
just on podcasts.
The music's a side gig. Kylie got me started, but then I decided, you know what? Since she didn't go to law school, I'll go to law school and be a musician. Wait till Kylie sees this. So, and you
I'm
think
sure
I'm
she'll be
kidding.
flattered.
All right. You know what? I'm going to see if we can find out. So we'll get you her phone number too, or your phone number. No. So
Have her
enough
people
of that.
call my
Okay.
people.
You know what? I'm going to call one of Kylie's people, who's going to call Kylie, have her call your people, and
Perfect.
we'll see where it goes from there.
It's a done deal.
So if Kylie was your first, she got stuck in your head and you couldn't get her out of your head, who are some of the other influences that started to mold you in those formative pop years?
Oh gosh, I would have to say like all of those like big powerhouse vocalists: Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, Pat Benatar, Kelly Clarkson was a big one too. Toni Braxton. I just was so enamored with people who treated the voice like it was an instrument. I think that sparked something in my own brain, to use my own voice as an instrument. So, but aside from that, like, my parents were listening to a lot of like 80s, 90s synth pop music. So I'd say I get a lot of influence from that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Which other artists? I mean, synth pop is pretty broad. I mean, who?
I know.
Since we're gonna talk about whether you own a synclave or not, and go down that rabbit hole in a while. But who are some of those artists that those heavy synth artists that got to you?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, there's plenty that I've discovered in adulthood, but it's different when you're hearing things in passing. Because my family listened to quite a variety of different artists, and it was like, we listened to like CDs primarily, so it wasn't like there was like a artist name on the dashboard that I could read. But in my adulthood, I've gotten really into like Depeche Mode, New Order. And then on the more modern side of things, I've gotten really into like Tame Impala, Washed Out, Beach House. Those are very synth-forward, dreamy pop, indie pop artists that I listen to a lot. But yeah.
Now, did you kind of take to the keyboard? Did you get lessons? Was it something that came to you naturally?
I very briefly took lessons when I think I was like 8 or 9. Didn't keep up with those for some reason, so I'm primarily self-taught. I did take a couple of keyboard classes in college, but that was mostly just learning like chords and scales and stuff. So most of what I know as a keyboardist, and especially as a synth player, is things that I've taught myself just from playing my own songs or covering other people's songs.
Yeah. So those were, you took lessons in between all the law classes. when you had time when you weren't studying tort law.
Yeah.
So your music is it's a soundscape,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're obviously brilliant at painting the canvas, we'll say,
Mm-hmm.
to use a different metaphor. Where do you find that inspiration? Where do you find the pieces that of audio color that you want to put on the canvas?
So I did take a film scoring class when I was in college. So I think that really taught me to develop a relationship between sight and sound. And then also being a huge movie buff, I love the relationship between a film's score and the emotions or the imagery that it conjures. And then in addition to that, like living in Colorado, it's inescapable being surrounded by these massive mountainous landscapes. I think that was something that really inspired my particular sound. Just these grandiose cinematic, I love to create sounds where you can also see things. And so I hope that when people listen to my music, they're also kind of like driving through the Rocky Mountains. That was such a huge inspiration for me in particular.
So do you think that film class, the scoring class, gave you kind of a theater of the mind approach to your creativity?
I would say so. Yeah. Cause I mean, you're learning from a like almost a clinical standpoint of how certain elements in a score create or evoke certain emotions. And I think I've always been kind of in tune with that just as a creative person. But I think learning a little bit more of the science of how that works and then trying to dissect it and then recreate it myself was a big breakthrough for me creatively. I think it was something that it elevated the songs that I was writing.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I mean, when you've got an idea in your head of what you want it to look like, and you can paint that in someone else's head when they're listening, is a pretty powerful ability,
Yeah.
and not everybody has it. So your most recent single was Digitalis.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about that. Where did that come from?
So I was watching an X-Files episode some years ago where these two twins that were born they were born separately, but they're identical because they were conceived via in vitro fertilization. They are basically like they have superhuman intelligence, and they're going around and poisoning people with foxglove flowers. And the poison that they create is derived from a medication that's also called Digitalis. So it's also derived from foxglove flowers. Around the same time, I learned that before no-fault divorce was a popularized idea, a lot of women would resort to poisoning their husbands to get out of bad marriages. So I think those two things together ignited this very dark and morbid part of my brain. And I was like, I'm going to write a murder ballad about a woman poisoning a man. And then while I was producing it, I wanted it to have like some kind of classic horror sounds to it. So there's like a little like tinny harpsichordy sound. There's a track where I record the synthesizer backwards. I play the song in reverse, so it has this kind of spooky swelling effect, and then it has my signature operatic ad-libs in the background towards the end, some tubular bells. It's probably my witchiest and most experimental song to date. I had a lot of fun putting it together, and I think it is kind of interesting that it's a murder ballad.
I've got to say, the king of 80s ballads and 90s, Phil Collins never wrote one about murder. He just wrote them about love. So I think you've gone 180 degrees from Phil Collins. I think congratulations on that. And you know what? Sometimes when you go out to the extremes, you find the equal of success because it balances itself out in the world. So do you draw? I mean, you mentioned your love of film and film scoring. The kind of the themes of your writing, right? And that cinematic texture to it. Does that come out of your love of film, and what genres of film really have drawn you to kind of create the style that you enjoy creating in?
Yeah, I'd say lyrically, I get a ton of inspiration from film, but also like poetry and classic literature, especially like Greek mythology. As far as film though, that's a huge inspiration for a lot of imagery. I love a good classic film, a good Hitchcock. I love David Lynch. Especially like that inspires a lot of surrealism in my songwriting, I think. And in my production as well. Angelo Badalamenti and his collaboration with David Lynch on Twin Peaks is probably a big influence for my sound as well. That kind of dreamy, surrealistic pop sound. I love a Western. I think I've been getting a lot of inspiration from Westerns lately. And then just anything that's like I like anything that's artistic and beautifully done that makes you think. I just saw Frankenstein recently, the new Frankenstein by Guillermo del Toro, and I'd have to say that's my new personality. It was like beautifully shot. Everything about it was so decadently gorgeous, but it was also delightfully morbid. It touched on a lot of things that I love.
So from one individual who got a degree in filmmaking, and I don't know, other than your law degree, you might have 2 or 3 more. You obviously are well-rounded. Favorite Hitchcock film?
This might be cliche, but I love Vertigo. I love something about Bernard Herrmann's score just like tickles everything in my brain, but the way that he uses the color green throughout the film. Green's one of my favorite colors. It's such a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm. I see, and I love the cinematography in that film. I mean, what he did by doing I forget the technical name for it at this point. It's been a long time, but that reverse pull where they're pulling back on the lens and the camera at the same time to make the vertigo effect is tremendous. I took an entire semester on Hitchcock. So,
oh my gosh, that must have been so fun.
A lot of birds.
Yeah, as one does.
A lot of birds on string. So wow. So it's okay. So now your new favorite film is taking over your personality. How is that impacting your current writing?
Well, I think beyond the aesthetics of Frankenstein, one thing that I really love about it is how it examines a bit of that parent-child relationship. And that's something that touches on me personally. I do have a song coming out in the spring that touches on similar. I really related to like the almost biblical rage that the creature feels coming from his creator. And like the shame that he internalizes from that, of thinking like, oh, he must be bad because he sees the way that other people are reacting to him, and he sees the way that his creator reacted to him. He has no concept of himself because he's just been given life. He's like a newborn infant, basically, in an adult's hodgepodge body. And the psychological damage, but also a little bit of that healing. You see him coming through the other side in the end of the story. Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen it. Although, if you don't know Frankenstein by now, what are you doing?
If this was maybe a new Marvel film, maybe it was Avatar, maybe it was Song Sung Blue, and you didn't know what it was really about. Maybe there needs to be a spoiler alert. But if you don't know what Frankenstein is at this point, considering there's got to be 97 different versions of it, you're really behind the ball, and you never need to get your butt to the movies.
But yeah, I love that the exploration of the relationship between parent and child, and then the child's sense of self and how that develops as a result of that dynamic. I think that's something that's been influencing my songwriting quite a bit. I've noticed that as I get older and I move through life a little bit more, my music becomes less about like my relationship with like other people, like romantic relationships, and more about like my relationship with myself from a philosophical standpoint, and my relationship with the world also from a philosophical standpoint. And so, yeah, that definitely is something that it hit every tender point in the best way possible.
Nice. Well, you know what? I think the most important thing is you can go to a movie, or you can read a book, or even listen to a song and walk away and have nothing. You don't get it, right? It doesn't resonate. But when you find something that truly resonates with you, and you can pull little things out of it and take them with you, I think that's a valuable emotional experience that you can have, and that we have with art. So, I think, for sure, it's looking forward to what comes out of that. Now, chances are people are watching us right now. They're putting their comments below because they want to win some merch, but they don't know your catalog, right? Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong. You've got you've got some singles out, but you got a couple of albums, right?
Yes.
And I think there's some physical media coming out in the near future.
Yep.
I'm always fascinated because, sometimes you pick a single because you think it's going to achieve something, or someone goes, "Hey, that's," they go, "That's the single." You don't realize it. But what I'm interested in is if your music was a meal, what 2 or 3 songs are the appetizer to get me hungry for the rest of the meal if I'm new to your music? Which 2 or 3 songs should I go find and listen to and go, holy cow, now I love this stuff and I want more?
Yeah, I'd say definitely Komorebi. That has all of the core parts of my sound, like that wall of synths, the dense vocal layers. There's a little bit of like the operatic ad libs towards the end, and it's got all of that beautiful imagery. I wanted that song to feel like a Rocky Mountain sunset, and so that was a big influence behind the songwriting and the production for that one. I'd say that would be quintessential Arily Michele number one. Number two would be Saint Vrain. It's the closing track on my last album, Highway Hypnosis. That's another one where it's got all of those 80 synths. It's got some operatic ad libs. I poured a lot of emotion into that song. Like it's like everything that I was feeling all at once came out into that song somehow. And it's one of my favorite ones to perform to this day. I close all of my sets out with it because it's just such a powerful song for me. Um, and then I'd say a good introductory. That's a tough one because I feel like my first album is so completely different from what I'm doing now. And the reason for that is because I like my first album was kind of like my pandemic boredom project. I was in a band at the time, but because of COVID, we haven't been able to get together and do much. And I had all these songs living on my hard drive that I wanted to get out into the world. So I worked with a producer and we put together an 8-track album, and I released that in 2021. And I don't have any regrets about that. I just wish I would have spent more time thinking about how I wanted it to sound because it's a good record, but it doesn't sound like, I don't think it sounds fully like me. Highway Hypnosis, I was a lot more deliberate and I took a lot more time on it, especially during the demoing phase, because at that point in my career, I was trying to figure out my sound. I feel like it's very common for like everybody's first project to be completely different from what direction they end up going in. So I was like, Highway Hypnosis, I really wanted to focus and be intentional about what is my sound? What are the elements of like my blueprint as a musician? And I'd probably say any of the songs on that record would be a good starting point. But specifically, I'd say Pink Clouds is another one. I think that's like the biggest single from that record. Because that deals a lot with like my relationship with myself. It touches on a little bit of like the internalized shame and guilt from growing up and the way that you internalize other people's opinions of yourself. And then coming out on the other side of it with a firmer sense of who you are. Lots of stronger notes of self-acceptance and a better understanding of who you are, your relationship with the world, your purpose in life, that sort of thing. And I think it's another one that's like kind of a quintessential Arily Michele because it has all of those elements as well, the 80s synths, the dreamy sounds, the not so much the operatic vocal layers, but a lot more of the like vocal harmonies stacked in the background.
So, contrary to popular belief, there are a lot of people think that they get somewhere alone, right? The reality is life is a series of encounters, sliding doors, people you meet. Is there someone that's come across your path in your musical career who's had like a really monumental impact on your career? Who would that person be?
I'd say the first person would be my husband because we're both musicians. He plays bass in my band. We both met in Denver. He was in a different band called Sleep Runner, and I was in a band called Viewfinders. And we have encouraged each other in our respective music careers to just keep pushing forward and to take it more seriously. And yeah, I mean, it obviously he's in my band, so he's kind of stuck with me. But I think he likes it. And he also plays bass in Dustin Sellers' band.
Oh, the Sad Bachelor. I know the Sad Bachelor.
Yes.
I've had the pleasure of sitting down with the Sad Bachelor. He was on the podcast a few months ago. Dustin's a great guy.
Yeah.
And I love how he took on the persona for the album.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you're kind of stuck with your husband, so I'm going to give you a second one. Some other rando, I guess. Who else in your life has had a really monumental impact on your musical career?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been meaning to reach out to her because I've been thinking about her a lot. But that would be my freshman year chorus teacher from when I was living in DC at the time. I was actually just about to move out of DC, so I was kind of bummed I didn't get more time to spend in her class. But she was obviously a chorus teacher by day, but she was a professional jazz musician by night, and so she was the first tangible example, I think, for me of a musician who's very accomplished but is also like a working class musician, maybe not necessarily super famous, because up until that point I thought you had to be like Britney Spears level, Taylor Swift level, and to be honest, that kind of intimidates me. I don't think I ever want to be in that much of a limelight. But she was a great example of somebody who was able to marry her passions with the normalization of having a day job, and kids and things like that, having a normal life and being able to balance it with a creative career. And so I've been meaning to reach out to her and like thank her, because she is the person who really inspired me to become a recording artist. Because after I moved away, I became friends with her on Facebook, and I follow her on Instagram, and I've kept up with her, and she's released tons of albums, and she's a member of the Recording Academy, and she's like mentoring somebody through that. And she's probably one of the biggest catalysts for my music career. So I've been meaning to reach out to her and thank her for inspiring me.
Well, and now you have the perfect opportunity. I mean, you just gave her a big shout out here today. So
Yeah.
I mean, why not let her know that she needs to watch the episode? I mean, we can
sure.
we can use every new subscriber we can get, to be perfectly honest. You got to collect them one by one. So, the world is kind of different these days. I mean, let's just say you were Neil Young back in the 70s and you sat around and you wrote songs, right? And then the record company put out product, and you'd go on a tour. Nowadays it's almost like the air quotes that being a creative is the bigger title than just being a musician, but that's like a hamster wheel, right, of always on and always creating. How do you manage that, and what are your feelings about having to do that outside of everything else that you're doing just to be creative, to build your music scapes?
Yeah, I mean, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I love it, because I dabble in a bunch of other skills as well. Like being a big film buff, I love creating and editing videos. I also have an interest in photography, so that's something that I think comes pretty naturally to me. I have a marketing background, so the idea of building my own brand and what I want to convey through imagery, not just my music, but like everything down to like the outfits that I wear on stage and the content that I post on social media, and being very intentional about that and having it all be very cohesive is something that I find very fascinating. What I like about the way that the industry is set up today is it's, you don't need a record label in order to release music. I think a lot about how many genuinely good musicians we have missed out on because they weren't fortunate enough to get a record label deal or go on a tour or have any recognition, really. The flip side to that, though, is it is a lot more difficult because there's a lot more noise. It's a lot more saturated. But I always say that music is unique in that, there's not really competition. Most people don't listen to just one artist or one genre the same way they buy one brand of toothpaste and they use that toothpaste until it runs out. So if somebody's listening to one artist, they're not necessarily not going to listen to you. So you're not necessarily competing with other artists in that sense. It can be a little bit difficult to build a community around your music, but that's something that I always also say the community is earned in drops and not buckets. It's tiny baby steps while you gain your first 1,000 or so fans. And if it was easy, everybody would do it. And I think that's a natural way of, weaning off the competition or turning down the noise. Is the people who aren't willing to at least try to cut through the noise are just not going to, or they don't care enough, or whatever the reason may be. They kind of remove themselves from the equation, if that makes sense. And the other thing too is like, as far as like, releasing music independently, you also don't have to be like an influencer. You don't have to be like a content creator. That's an entirely optional. I know it feels like it's mandatory, and it kind of is. If you want to have a career out of music. But the way that I choose to look at it is like, if I am choosing to put out my own music and I want people to listen to it, if I'm not willing to advocate for it myself, if I'm not willing to promote myself, then why would I be deserving of listeners? Why would I be deserving of having a fan base if I'm not willing to advocate for myself? So I mean, it can be kind of a grueling and exhausting process. There are definitely times where I get burnt out because I am the CEO of Arily Michele Incorporated, and I'm on 24/7. I'm on call. I'm salaried, although I don't have a salary. But like, it's my business, and it's my focus in life. And there are times where I do have to kind of step away and take a break from it just to recenter myself and make sure I'm focusing on the right things. Because it can be very burning out. I can burn out pretty quickly sometimes.
No. Well, I think you have a healthy attitude about it. I mean, because
Yeah.
there are some people who take it so seriously that they do burn themselves out, and then kind of the spark goes away. So,
Yeah.
one of the things that we really enjoy learning about people, because you may have a bucket list. You may do a dream board or whatever that vision board thing.
Yeah.
I've never done one,
Vision
but
board.
vision board. You have, there's dreams and aspirations in the world.
Mhm.
If you had an opportunity to get into a studio for a day with another musician or a producer to collaborate and make something, who knows what it could be?
Yeah.
They can bring all of the major notes, and you'll bring the macabre. See how that works out. But who would that person be, and why them?
Oh, I mean, I always say that it's my dream to collaborate with Washed Out. Like sometimes he'll do remixes of other people's songs. I'd love to go on a tour with him. He's one of my favorite artists of all time. I listen to him like constantly. I went to his past couple of tours. Um, I'd say he's a big inspiration behind my sound. I love the way he incorporates like kind of like hip hop rhythmic sections with like more dreamy, washy soundscapes. So if it's any one person, even if it was just like a remix or like we collaborated on a song together, it would probably be Washed Out.
All right. Anybody watching knows Washed Out. You know what to do.
Please.
Besides liking the video, besides subscribing, which we all know to do, and putting a comment down below or a question so that you can enter to win some merch, get in touch with Washed Out. Make it happen. So everyone who watches knows that we are huge proponents of supporting artists. Art does not come for free.
Mhm.
Obviously, you're not going to get new keyboards unless you're making $1 or $2 at this. So we are big proponents of supporting artists. So everybody, you've got to go out, buy Arily Michele's albums. You've got to buy her digital downloads, buy her merch, buy a ticket to a show. Support her, support all the artists you see here, support the artists you love, because when they don't get that support, and I'm not just talking about, accolades, I'm talking about financial support. Sometimes they go away and then you're kind of bummed and disappointed. We don't want any of that to happen. That being said, Arily, we really love learning what people enjoy, right? When you're not making your music, right? Who are 2 or 3 artists, if we're just sitting here having a drink and you're like, oh my God, I've been listening to this. I take it to the gym. I take it on a ride. I go hiking in the woods, whatever. I take this music with me. Who are a couple of artists that you've been listening to that you really dig, that you've been sharing with people?
Yeah. So one of my favorite bands of all time is they're an Aussie neo psych band called Moses Gun Collective, and gun is spelled with 2 N's. Their album Mercy Mountain is like one of my favorite albums of all time. That is the album that I force everybody to listen to when they become my friend. It's such a good album, and I'd say it's one of the biggest inspirations for my current sound. It's so like glittery and like sunny, and like it reminds me of winters in Colorado, like skiing. But they're an Australian band, so it's a lot more surfy than that, but that's just my personal association with them. They're so good. Beach House is another artist that I listen to constantly. They're a quintessential dream pop band, I'd say. Victoria Legrand. She is so cool. I would love to get to meet her because I would love to just hear the stories. She just seems like such a wise and intelligent and interesting person to talk to. And then another band that I've been listening to a lot lately is they're another Australian band, Pond. I caught them on tour I think it was last year. They played at the Basement East in Nashville. Incredible show. Very high energy. They're very they definitely have more of like a 70s prog rock kind of vibe to them, but they're also a very synth heavy psychedelic rock band. I think Kevin Parker from Tame Impala was the drummer for that band originally. I think he also produced their first couple of records. So I've been spinning them a lot lately. They're really, really cool.
Nice. Look, we've all got something to. We've got 3 new Australian groups to listen to, and you never know. We're working on getting some Australian bands on here. Maybe if someone knows somebody makes a connection, we can have them on as well. You never know. You never know. Well, hey, this has been great. Everybody, go out, get her music. I mean, as someone who studied film, and if you enjoy that kind of musical soundscape, and one that's really layered and dense and thoughtful, you're going to love her music. So go out, buy it, support her efforts. She needs more keyboards. Every keyboardist needs more keyboards.
Please enable my gear addiction.
Yes. Gear addiction is a thing. And there's an 800 number for that too. So Arily, this has been great getting to know you. I appreciate you hanging out with us. As 2026 unfolds and your next album comes out, let us know. We'll have you back. We'll talk all about it.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, everybody, she mentioned it earlier, be good to one another, be good to the world, be good to the planet. Just, we need each other. We really do. And we're all alike. So show some people some love and kindness and come back for our next episode. Arily, it's been great getting to know you. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott. I had so much fun.
Absolutely. We're going to do this again. We'll talk to everybody soon.
Absolutely.
Take it easy.
You
Bye-bye.
too.